What's up, Rockstars? Today is a big day because we're going to be talking about how we need to come clean and be honest. Thank you to my channel sponsor, Into the AM. As a company that believes hard work and a great product is a proper way to conduct business, I am delighted to have them as part of the channel. They have some of the coolest graphic t-shirts around and an absolute best fit and feel that has continually exceeded my expectations. With new shirts arriving all the time and other products like boxers, hats, and even a monthly shirt club, I wholeheartedly recommend them to you. Check out the link in my description of this video for an exclusive 10% off everything they sell. As always, a huge shout out to my patrons and YouTube members. It is through their financial support that this channel is possible. If you appreciate the videos that I make every single week for you guys, and they are truly for you guys, there's a link down in the description below. Thank you so much. That out of the way, let's go ahead and dive right in. Now, I have some notes here. We're going to be talking about essentially, I think, the communication changes that need to happen in Kickstarter, especially from companies. So as they give you updates, as they make their campaign pages, as they're doing all these things, what do they need to start actually saying? Some companies do this okay. None that I have seen do this great. Some of them do this pathetically bad. So let's go and discuss. Number one is talk about milestones. And what I mean by milestones is how many times will a company remind you that the pledge manager is coming up. Remind you that the pledge manager window is almost over. Lots. How many times will they tell you that the refund window is coming up? How many times will they tell you that the refund window is almost up? One is a lot more than another, and I understand why. It's because they want to sell stuff and make money. But I think they also need to foster a community that supports them, and one of the ways to do that is to be upfront about various milestones. And you don't have to just be professional about it, just list it as it is. Hey guys, it's almost time. If you wanted to refund, now's the time to do it. We will stop giving refunds at X time or whatever. But communicate that to the backers just as you would any other milestone. It's an important milestone for backers to track. Therefore, they should be supplying that so you don't have to put in the legwork for it. Now, let's talk about a list of items in an update. There needs to be a list of work items or tasks that need to be done. They do not have to be super small detail. They can be at a higher level, maybe at a feature level or something like that. But they do need to be there and they need to be listed so people understand the steps that are needed and where we're making progress. Now, if you don't have a list, then you should have one. Don't try to make a board game, which is super complex, where you're going to make this box full of hundreds of components from a nation you don't even live in and then ship it around the world to thousands of people and not have a freaking list of work items. If you don't have a work item list, make one. If you do have work item list, which you should, communicate it. Tell us about it. Let us know what's coming up. Now, it doesn't necessarily need to be the end-all list. In other words, at the beginning, you don't need to list all 1,000 items or whatever, right? But list up to at least the next milestone, and then just list milestones after that or something like that. You can work on how you communicate that, but there definitely needs to be an actual list of items that need to be completed so that people know what's going on. And that list needs to be static. You can't just be making up new ones randomly. Now, if things come up, you need to work on them, of course, but there shouldn't be glaring omissions to it, I guess is what I'm saying there. You need to communicate what it is you're working on so that we know. And that ties into updating monthly. You should at least have a monthly update. You can update more often than that, of course, but no more than a month should go by before you touch base with your backers. These are people that you owe something to as a business, and therefore you need to communicate to the people that you owe things to. And if you don't have anything to say after months of work, you need to reassess what your month of work actually was. If your month of work on an entire game is sitting there waiting, well then say that. Say, hey, we didn't work on this at all. But we're still waiting on this other, third party company to kind of get back to us, and so we'll let you know when that is. But until then, there's no work that we needed to do, and so we didn't do anything there. We're working on other Kickstarters. I mean, whatever it is, talk about it, or use it as an example to do a deep dive, or talk about the play testings and what, often questions come up, or, whatever it might be. You can use that time however you wish to communicate with the people that you owe something to as a company. But you definitely need to at least have a monthly update. If you don't, and you have literally nothing to say to us, then get off Kickstarter. I have nothing else to say about that. Just leave. Okay, let's talk about criticism. As people bring things up, respond to it. Now, you don't have to get down to the level of speech that maybe some criticism is levied at you. You don't have to talk to every single point people make. But if there's something that keeps coming up, respond to it. Don't just ignore it. The problem doesn't go away that way. The communication is then just breaking down. If people are saying, hey, and you're not responding to that, then you probably should. Ignoring it just lets the wound fester. Whereas if you respond with it, even if it's not a good answer, it's at least an answer so they can stop asking. Ignoring criticism is never a good idea. I don't think it ever helps. Now, there are bad ways to respond to it. And so I'll leave that up to you to respond well, but you should acknowledge it if nothing else. If nothing else, we hear you, we're working on it, or we hear you, no, that's not going to happen, or whatever it is, at least respond. Lastly, and this is a special case thanks to Marvel United, but if there are any retail releases, communicate them. If there are any plans for retail, if you're working on that, you don't have to list specific companies. You don't have to list specific business deals or anything like that, but let people know if there are actual retail, either an agreement to actually go to retail, or if you're in talks to go to retail, if you're wanting to go to retail, talk about your desire to retail and how realistic they are, based off of your history as a company, based off the progression of talks, based on, just any data point that you have. You don't have to share all the nitty gritty details. I understand business deals need to be business deals, and those can't always just be public knowledge, but you can communicate intent. You can communicate if you're pursuing it, if you're in the process of, there's a lot of things you can talk about that. Let people know what that is. Now, obviously, let them know also that it's often not a guarantee, right? And I think that's fine to say that, but if nothing else, you definitely really need to communicate if you're already manufacturing the darn thing for retail, for instance. And honestly, any retail dates as well. If you have a set date that they'll launch at, or if they get to launch it as soon as it arrives or anything like that, and you're shipping it a certain way, then talk about that. Lastly, that brings us to shipping, of course. Communicate as much as you possibly can around shipping. I'm not talking about prices, actually. I think companies are getting better and better at communicating shipping costs and whether it's the first mile, the second mile, or anything like that. All those terms, I think we're all coming to terms with those terms. But you can communicate a bigger picture about how many containers you need. You can communicate about what extra. In other words, what are you shipping extra? How that's paid for. In other words, as people get replacement parts, you need extra copies for that. And as you need extra copies, you're shipping those extra copies. Is it 3%? Is it 5%? Is it 10%? Are you getting 1,000 extra copies? What is it? How does that look like? Are you shipping retail copies? Are the retail copies shipping with everybody else's? Are they shipped separately? Are they shipped before because the SKUs are different, so it's easier to pick? Let us know. Just communicate what that picture looks like so that we know what that looks like. And I guess as a last point, and this is something that you can word however you wish, I suppose, but if there's a fake funding goal that you put there, that's fine. I get it. Places like Kickstarter, for instance, actually will hurt you if you don't fund quickly, and will reward you if you fund quickly. That's why they do that, because it matters with the listing and the order. If you type in board games, if you're searching for board games, you'll appear quicker if you funded quickly. And so there's incentive there, and I get that. And you got to play by the rules that the platform you work on is there. I don't think GameFound has that issue, but the precedent is already there. So that's fine. There's some psychological things. I don't care what you do with that number, but talk about it. Talk about that number. Realistically, what do you need? What's the minimum order you need to make at the company? Is it 1,000? Well, then we're looking for at least 1,000 backers, right? Or maybe 900 or something like that. Just communicate kind of where you're at with that. Is this like your most important Kickstarter ever? Is this something that you need extra help with? Are you hoping that this explodes because you don't start making profit until 5,000 backers? Let us know how many backers it is. I understand the hesitancy to communicate that, but the alternative is you don't meet whatever imaginary numbers you have. You then cancel, and you have now ruined your company's reputation completely. You've ruined, nobody will trust you in your numbers. Nobody will trust you in what numbers you put up there or what you say now. And I think the risk of completely ruining your company image is not worth the risk of being a little bit more honest with people about where you're at and what you actually need. So if you want to put $10 as a goal, fund it in 3 seconds, that's fine. But then talk about what the real thing is. What are you doing with the manufacturer? Where are you at when it comes to what makes a viable business move for you as a company to stay afloat? Different companies need different amounts. A success for one company might be we didn't lose money, and a success for another one is we only made $500,000 on that. That's pathetic. It depends on a lot of different variables, and honestly, just talk to us. Let us know. Communicate. I know that's kind of weird to talk about, but you need to communicate. We need lists of work items. We need updates monthly. We need all this, because otherwise resentment starts building up, right? We saw that with Kingdom Death Monster when we went almost 6 months before we got more than 2 sentences about an update for the next deliverable. We'd get plenty of fluff about other stuff, but almost nothing about what was actually being needed. And then it was all high level stuff, and the list of items is changing, and it's just all bad. And all it does is make people have a worse time. People worry, and the company look worse. It's not worth it. Just communicate. Trust me. I think backers prove time and time again that we are very understanding as long for like delays and stuff like that, as long as they make sense. In other words, you didn't delay because you wanted to take a 6 months sabbatical to Hawaii on a beach somewhere to go find yourself or something, right? But if you're working on it and it takes a little bit longer, just communicate it. Backers will understand. I promise. They're actually pretty darn cool. I think we're pretty cool anyway. But yeah, just work on that communication. And guys, that's it. That's a quick video for today. I just wanted to kind of go over this. It's come up several times in the past, and then it's come up a lot recently as companies fail to just let us know what's going on. And I think backers are very accommodating as long as the communication's there. But if the communication isn't there, it doesn't matter your intent, it goes sour really quick. And nobody wants angry backers. Nobody wants people that are going to say, don't back that company. Nobody wants people who every time they see the game, they're upset about it or want a refund only because you don't communicate well. That's just silly. It's easy enough to talk. So let's actually talk. That's all I had. Have a great rest of your day. Talk to you guys again very soon. Bye, guys.